Welcome back. Today we're diving into a really fascinating exploration of de-dollarization. It's like are China and the BRICS constructing a gold standard trading system?
Oh, definitely exciting stuff. So, we're looking at a shift where massive volumes of gold are being moved out of Western controlled systems, right?
Exactly, yep. Massive quantities of gold are moving from Western countries to vaults that operate outside the SWIFT system and Western
Yeah.
regulation. It's a pretty big red flag for the hegemony the dollar holds in global trade.
I can see that. And it's particularly interesting that even top gold producing countries, China and Kazakhstan, for example, are actively buying rather than selling, right?
Right. And that's an important point. Despite gold hitting record highs, these central banks are buying gold. I mean, normally, in times of economic uncertainty, you might expect them to offload, but not now.
Yeah, that seems counterintuitive at first, doesn't it? Why would these banks choose to accumulate gold when prices are already through the roof?
It's all part of a strategic play. There's this theory that countries are depositing gold into vaults located in friendly nations, almost like a mutual hostage
Right.
situation. Essentially, the gold deposited can then collateralize hundreds of billions in real goods trading.
So, wait, are you saying that this gold is, in a way, going to replace treasury bonds and even the dollar's role in global trade?
Exactly. It's a bold vision, supplanting the current dollar based framework with a trading system secured by real tangible assets like gold. It's like replacing paper currency with something that has inherent value.
Wow, that would be like a real paradigm shift in international finance. But isn't that a bit optimistic? I mean, how realistic is it for countries to fully transition away from the dollar?
It sure sounds optimistic, yeah. But consider that Western sanctions on Russia, for instance, have really pushed nations to explore alternatives that are free from the political coercion inherent in the current system. It's like governments feeling we need a system that isn't at the mercy of foreign oversight.
I guess that makes sense. So the pressures from sanctions have basically supercharged the urgency to build this um, alternative system?
Absolutely. And it's not just rhetoric, there's real tangible movement. For example, the Shanghai Gold Exchange has even launched its first offshore vault in Hong Kong.
Right,
That
right.
move is emblematic, a physical manifestation of this de dollarization trend.
That is a very concrete step. But do you think the gold standard approach can really sustain modern global trade, considering the complexities of today's financial systems?
Well, that's where the debate heats up. On one hand, gold is tangible and not subject to political whims, but
Yeah,
on the other hand, modern trade dynamics require flexibility and liquidity that a pure gold backing might not provide. It's like comparing a robust truck to a sleek sports car. Both have their merits depending on the terrain.
that's an interesting analogy. But let me challenge one point. Isn't it a bit risky for central banks to tie up so many reserves in something that can be so volatile as gold prices, especially if there's a sudden market shift?
That's a fair point, definitely. And it can be seen as a double edged sword. Gold is stable over the long term, but in the short term, it might experience price swings.
True.
Yet, many argue that this volatility is a smaller risk compared to the political uncertainties tied to the dollar.
I see. So it's a risk diversification strategy. Shift the risk from political instability to market fluctuations that can, well, be managed through smart policies.
Exactly. And think about it. By using gold as collateral in these cross country transactions, nations can effectively secure hundreds of billions of dollars in real goods trade. It's like having insurance that's backed by something universally recognized for its value. It gives a sort of intrinsic stability to the trading system.
And this whole mechanism seems to challenge the long established role of treasury bonds and the dollar. In your view, what might be the broader implications if this alternative system were fully implemented?
Well, if we see a full scale adoption, it could undermine the dollar's dominant role in global finance. It'd be a rebalancing of power, shifting trade dynamics towards commodity backed currencies. It could also force
Right.
Western policymakers to rethink their approach on sanctions and global economic influence.
That sounds revolutionary, but also a a little risky? Change of that magnitude can come with unforeseen economic disruptions, don't you think?
Absolutely, there's definitely a layer of uncertainty. Transitioning from a dollar-dominated system to one built on gold or another commodity isn't going to be smooth sailing. It's like you've got to balance on a tightrope where any misstep could lead to, well, economic instability. But isn't that the nature of
Yeah,
any major systemic overhaul?
true enough. It reminds me of historical shifts where old systems didn't just flip overnight but evolved through periods of turbulence.
Right, and history does tell us that these transitions are rarely seamless. However, the current environment, with rising geopolitical tensions and the increasing unpredictability of international relations, seems to be accelerating these moves. It's almost as if the current system is becoming too brittle to manage modern pressures.
And speaking of modern pressures, I'm curious about what this means for global investors. With gold prices hitting record highs, is this a signal that investors are getting ready for a long-term shift?
It very well might be. Gold has always been seen as a safe haven, and with these central banks buying, it sends a strong signal. Even when markets get rocky, investors might view a gold-backed system as
Yeah, I hear
a
that.
more secure harbor. There's a sense of moving from, let's say, an abstract promise of value in paper currency to a tangible trust in physical assets.
And yet, isn't there a potential downside? Over-reliance on gold could limit monetary policy flexibility in times of crisis, couldn't it?
You raise a valid concern. One could argue that while gold provides a solid foundation, it lacks the dynamic flexibility needed to respond swiftly to economic shocks. That's probably one of the reasons why many Western economies still cling to the dollar. It allows for a more fluid and responsive monetary policy. It's definitely a trade-off between stability and flexibility.
Indeed, it's a bit of a dilemma. So, do you think this move towards a gold standard trading system by the BRICS and China is more about political strategy or economic strategy?
It's likely a mix of both, really. On the economic side, it's about creating a system less vulnerable to the whims of Western sanctions and policies. Politically, it's asserting independence and reducing reliance on the dollar as a tool of foreign policy. It's like building
Right,
an
exactly.
alternative currency insulates nations from political risks as well as economic ones.
That blend of economic pragmatism with political assertion seems like a very deliberate strategy, but could it end up fracturing the global financial system further by creating competing standards?
That is a risk, a substantial one, I'd say. Fragmentation could lead to a situation where global trade becomes even more complex and segmented. However, proponents argue that a multipolar system might actually make the world less susceptible to unilateral coercion. It's essentially
what you
about
mean.
redistributing power in a way that's more balanced.
It's a fascinating tug of war, really. On one side, you have the established order. On the other, this emerging alternative that promises more resilience in some ways. But will the benefits outweigh the disruptive transitions, you think?
That's the million-dollar question. Ironically, given we're talking about hundreds of billions in collateral here, it's like you're weighing the stability of tradition against the innovation of a new model. While there are significant potential benefits, the transition has to be managed with a careful balance of policy and practical steps to avoid chaos. It's a gamble
Exactly.
that, if pulled off right, could change the global order forever.
And watching these developments unfold, it makes one wonder about the future of global economics. Could we see a resurgence of gold-backed currencies really taking center stage in the long run?
Possibly. One could liken it to going back to the roots of money, a system based on physical assets rather than abstract notions of value. But it isn't going to be a simple reversal. It's more like a new chapter where gold and a new, more balanced trade system coexist with the old order.
Absolutely.
It's a dynamic evolution that we'll definitely be keeping an eye on.
And that is what makes this period so thrilling for economists and investors alike. Each move by central banks and nations seems laden with strategic intent and potential ripple effects across global markets.
Exactly. Every decision, every vault opened, every record gold price hit, it all adds up to a broader reconfiguration of the global financial landscape. It's like watching a grand chess game where every piece, however small, could shift the balance dramatically.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, this conversation sure gives plenty to ponder. It'll be exciting to see how, if and when this shift really takes hold, and what it means for the future of global trade.
Absolutely. It's a developing story with layers of economic, political, and even cultural implications. Thanks for exploring this complex topic with me. There's plenty more to watch as this new gold standard narrative unfolds.
Absolutely. Thanks for the engaging discussion. Until next time, keep questioning and stay curious.